Oh, there we go.
You guys are live.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Anybody's around.
We finally made it. All right. So today, April and I, I'm going to be interviewing April, and normally this is a private event that happens in 5D Daily, but today it's a public event because that's just how it works because of the way Facebook is right now. So first I'll be asking April some personal questions, and then she's going to bring in Merlin, and we're going to get to ask Merlin some questions. So I should have waited to say all that. Now it looks like somebody's on with us, but either way, that's how it's working. So yeah, do you want to just get started? It looks like we have like one viewer, but
I don't have any comments yet on this side, but yeah, we can get started. We want to apologize if anybody's out there. We had terrible tech problems. Facebook Live does not seem to show us a way to get on together. And so we scrambled around trying to find a way to do it. And Rachel jumped in, and she is going to be forwarding this to the page. And also, I think it's going to be live on YouTube as well, if you want to look for it there on Rachel's page. So we will do the best we can to give you, Rachel says it's all set, and we will give you our best interview, and hopefully you'll find us when you can.
All right. So I know that you did a podcast with with Rachel a couple weeks ago, and you talked a little bit about how you and Rachel connected. I think it was through opera, because you both sang in opera. Is that correct?
Well, interestingly enough, it was through spiritual studies. We both ended up in a class that a local person was giving about manifesting abundance. And then when we found out we were both singing in opera companies, me in the chorus and she as a principal, we had a lot more in common. So we started to be friends.
Okay. So before you had taken that spiritual class, where were you at in your spiritual journey is what I want to know.
I thought I was pretty far along, although, after I've started with TAG and Rachel, now that she's teaching all of this stuff, I had a quantum leap to a whole nother level. I've been studying spiritual and metaphysical stuff since I was pretty young, like right out of high school. And I've been doing tarot readings. Rachel and I were trying to figure it out. I started doing tarot readings maybe 40 years ago, which sounds like a lot. And it's been a journey. And, from starting where a lot of people start with the book and the book and the deck and trying to read things for people and trying to figure it out and get my intuition working, it grew and grew. And then I was doing it in stores and doing it in local shops and doing it at fairs and doing it privately. And it's evolved because and less and less dependent on I changed how I did the cards. I just eliminated the cut the cross and started just working with the cards as they came up. And then I started to just trust the voices in my head and the knowing, and the cards confirming, or at least being a jump off point. Sometimes clients need to see a picture. They need to see something. They don't just trust you and you're just talking like, somebody's telling you. But anyway, it's been a long, long journey and still growing. And Rachel moved away and we were out of touch for maybe 5 years. And by the time we got in touch again, she was very deeply into this and a brilliant teacher. And I took some classes with her, and man, it opened up a whole bunch of new tools.
Yeah, I didn't know all that. I didn't know that you had been submerged in all of that for that long. I knew you had read tarot for a long time, but I didn't realize, all that other stuff that you were doing it in stores and all that kind of stuff. So that's awesome. I didn't know that. I know I've taken your tarot class and I absolutely loved it. And I think you're a great teacher too, April.
Thank you.
before uh, before taking Rachel's class, um, how connected to spirit did you feel? Like I know you were using the tarot, but did you feel like you were channeling as a tarot reader? Did you feel like you had like these guides around you, or was that something that changed or shifted for you when you took Rachel's class?
I think, oh, geez, how do I describe this? I think I felt very connected to spirit, or knew I had some kind of spirit guides, and as I was counseling people, I knew, like, I'd look at the cards, but I would always, um, I would know, I would say I'm hearing, or I feel like, or yeah, I didn't really know my spirit guides, and I'm not sure. I think I was doing a lot of channeling, but I didn't know what channeling was really. And
Right.
I kind of had experiences with the first array, the first level of channelers that came out as like famous people were mostly mediums that just did, dead people, or also they were channelers, but they had this big, it was like a whole big production. And I think a lot of us started to channel information, but it was subtle and we didn't realize that we were really connecting to other voices. So when I took Rachel's class and she sort of quantified, let's try these guides, or this, try an angel, try a galactic, here's what kind of guide is this for you. That's when it really clicked, and that's when I knew that, yeah, we can all do this now. We can do this now, and we can ask to be a vessel and connect with the energies. We can, like Rachel does, she channels just about everything, at some point. I mean, that's a real skill. But most of us, I think, figure out that we have certain energies that resonate with us, or certain guides that want us to be their mouthpiece. And then they come in much more easily and more quickly and more completely. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I definitely think that, using the tarot for as long as you had and all the interest that you had, you were definitely channeling before. But I'm sure taking Rachel's class, that was a nice confirmation for you and a validation for you to let you know how deep your connection truly was. Um, so, what has changed for you personally in your life since, like, working with Rachel and taking her classes, like on a spiritual level or, spiritual growth?
Well, I think coming, first of all, to tag just as a member, I kind of felt like it was confirmation that there was a whole community of people that, I don't even want to say believed, but knew that unicorns are real, dragons are real, angels are real, everything is real. It's all in different multidimensional things. We can communicate with them. They're more present than ever. There is a plan. There is a future. I think I didn't really. I felt a little isolated, and I felt like I didn't. I kind of believed all of that, but I didn't have the confirmation. And now with a whole community around me that was like affirming this, it was so joyful, and just kind of rooted everything, and which helped me to go after more. And Rachel's classes, I think she uses a combination of a kind of a style of throw you in the deep end, while she holds the space for you energetically, and then also guides you through the parts that you feel like you're not doing well at, or failing at, or whatever, and helps you to figure out your personal connection with spirit for each
Mhm.
student. And
Yeah.
that was really important for me. It just opened a lot of doors, and Merlin was a huge one, because I kind of knew Merlin was in my life all my life, but I also didn't know if it was just my own imagination. And now
Right.
I'm pretty sure. No.
All right. Um, So, what do you like about trance channeling? Because that's part of Rachel's course is, her classes is, not only opening up these abilities and having a deeper connection with spirit, but then also getting to do something very advanced like trance channeling, which is a whole different experience than just, channeling. So how, like, what do you like about it?
If you think about the whole the whole array of light workers that are sort of working up in the world and doing kind of metaphysical work of all sorts. There's a lot of healers, there's tarot readers, there's mediums, there's all kinds of different people. And I really believe that while we can all dabble in all of it, everybody has like a skill, or just like in sports or in music or in art, you have a certain lane that's really special for you. And I was doing these tarot readings with people for so long, and after a certain point, I wasn't that interested in having a lot of clients that were either skeptical or just doing it for entertainment or fun, or in a crowded bar, which is smoky and loud, and everyone's drunk, and they're just it's a play thing for them, or some really I've had some like psychologically damaged people that were beyond my pay grade, that and I kind of wanted more to be a teacher, like a bringing forth information, bringing forth light, bringing forth information maybe about Atlantis or about the ascension or about what is reality really like, and opening up to be a trance channeler, especially for Merlin, that's his lane, that's what he loves most of all, is to teach people what is. And some of the other beings that we've contacted, galactics, that to know, they tell us about their lives, their ascensions, their planets, their purpose. And that is really super interesting to me. And I feel like I'm serving a better, higher purpose, not just to comfort people and say your loved ones are okay on the other side, because every medium does that, and it's always the same message. Your loved ones are alive. They love you. They visit you. They're on the other side. They're fine. Okay, fine. We got the message now. We're
Right.
kind of past that. I'd like to know more, like,
Exactly.
and so this is exciting because trance channeling, I think, puts you in touch with the highest vibrational beings that can feed you information that is useful and exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I completely agree with you. And it's a great experience. And like when you're holding that space for that being that's coming into your energy field, um, I don't know, it's undescribable really, because every being kind of has their own energy signature and makes you feel a certain way. And it's like all of your clairs are all working together, and then it's I don't know, it's like a knowing, and I don't know, it's just wild. And
You're describing it better than I could, I think, and I think that's true. I feel like I'm entirely present while and if I'm channeling Merlin, I'm entirely present while he's speaking, and he's using some of my knowledge and some of my cultural touch points to make points of his own. So I'm involved, but I'm not originating the thoughts or the information. And when I finish, I always feel so joyful. I mean, that's the big thing. I'm like, I could be in any kind of a mood and I do this. And after we're done, I'm like flying, I'm so happy. It's the most
yeah.
joyful experience for me because it feels like a merge with something wonderful. Um, and then the rest of the day, I'm just like really happy.
Right. Um, okay, so I have just one more personal question for you. And if anyone else has any questions for April regarding her spiritual journey or trance channeling or taking Rachel's classes, feel free to put those in the comments. Um, but so I think you kind of answered this, but I'm going to ask again. So, how has trance channeling specifically helped you? Um, uh, yeah, how has it helped you just, I don't know, in everyday life? Like, do you use it to gain your own guidance or?
I probably could do more of that if I took time and just sat with my own guides and like tried automatic writing or maybe taped myself doing trance channeling. It's easier, I think, if someone's asking you questions and you can be not involved in the originating of the thoughts. But I feel like the main thing it's done for me right now, it's probably just beginning, there could be so many things, but it's first of all, I have channeled loved ones for trans-channeled loved ones for clients, and it seems to have been it's very comforting to them. It's a comfort and a good tool to have in your toolbox because they really feel like they are hearing from their loved ones, and it's helpful to them. But for me personally, the biggest thing is to forge this relationship with this one being. I mean, for me personally, it's like I feel like I have a very dear heart friend with Merlin, and that he's been so reliable. If I call upon him, he will always be there. He'll answer questions for me. He'll answer questions for anybody, and I feel like there's a real connection. It's a familial almost connection, which has just changed my view of reality, of the world, of everything. I'm even doing things. Um, he's made a couple of analogies and parables and things in his
Yes,
presentations
sir.
that really impressed me a lot. They kind of like put things in perspective, and I go around quoting them. I'm like talking to people, and I say, well, I was talking to Merlin, and Merlin just had this perspective on this, that he said this, and I really think it's the best way to describe it, and it really is uplifting. And of course, some people think I'm crazy, but that's okay. I'm owning that, and I don't mind. I want to bring the things that he brings us that to help us get through this, to navigate this difficult journey. I want to share them. So for whoever
Yeah.
will listen.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think like trans channeling loved ones, it's kind of it's maybe similar to like, the movie Ghost, but not quite as, so I think that's why people can really feel it's almost a deeper connection because that their presence I feel is even more present because they're speaking through you in a different way than just like regular channeling.
Yes.
So, and I think the trance channeling um, also helps uh up level like your consciousness or open up your consciousness and your awareness and your perspectives and just really like you were saying helps you to kind of see the world differently and through different eyes. So do you ever work with like if you're needing guidance in your life, do you ever ask him for help
Oh yeah.
or
Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I do ask. And I always ask spirit, like I always ask. We all have ways, pendulums. I do something with my fingers, for yes or no questions. Should I do this? And they seem to be interested in helping us from the most profound question to the littlest stupid thing that you can't decide which brand to buy, like, or whether you should go to a party or not. They'll give you the answer if it's for highest good. Um, and just having somebody personal to ask, I think I get a deeper feeling about,
Your
why.
perspectives.
And as I said, I have done a couple of sessions where I just sat like in the backyard and did automatic writing and just asked him
Oh,
to
okay.
just answer questions for me. And that was very productive too. I should do that more often, which is
So
the same thing. It's just not through my voice.
right. Yeah.
It's
Is he helping you to write your next book?
well, he laughs because the first book I wrote was a fantasy novel, and at the time I had not taken this class, and I didn't have this personal relationship, but it really felt like I was channeling when I was writing the book because it just came through like boom, like I couldn't keep up. I was scribbling and with a purple pen and journals. I went through 10 journals and I just kept writing and writing and writing what they told me to write. And I felt like I knew these characters, I knew their world. Um, and I didn't always know what was coming next. And as they would tell me what was coming next, and I would say, "Well, why is he doing that?" In my head, I would argue with them. I would be like, why is he doing that? That doesn't make any sense." And they're like, "Just shut up and put what we tell you." So I did feel like either I'm losing my mind, and I'm multiple personalities, or these people are real and they are basically somebody's channeling this story for a reason. and these characters for a reason. And I'm sure Merlin, now it's about a wizard, and I'm sure that Merlin was very intimately involved with that. But I also feel like the characters in the book are sort of on another multidimensional plane, have a reality to them.
Yeah, that's actually what Merlin said. So when you did that interview with Rachel, that's what Merlin said about it, was that these beings actually exist in another, reality, another dimension, whatever. And that part of what you channel, is these real people or these real beings that had these, real experiences. So I thought that was fascinating. So, but yeah, Merlin did say that in your
Good. Thanks for
video.
remembering that.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
am sure he's trying to help me. He also wants me to write a book about him. Um, and this experience, he wants me to put this all down,
Yeah.
like how did we meet, what helped us to
Aw.
connect, and then put in between that, to put a lot of his kernels of truth that he puts, so and so it's a matter of me like getting my act together and applying myself to all these projects that he wants me to do.
Well, I think that book would be amazing, to hear your journey together, to hear about maybe your journey together in the past lives that you've had together, and
Mm.
just to hear some of his stories and his magic. And yeah, I think that would be very cool.
Well, thanks. I think maybe that, well, we're trying to put together a tarot book, and also
Yeah,
I just would love to just have nothing to do but write.
right.
Wouldn't that be great? Okay,
Yeah,
spirit, like just flood me with all kinds of abundance and stuff so that I can stay home and write and just do
yeah.
all the things you want me to do.
Live an easy world.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that wraps up my personal questions for you, and I don't think I see any from the audience. Um, so I'm trying to look here, and I don't see any. So I think we'll move on to channeling Merlin. But before we do, is there anything else you wanted to add about any of the stuff we've already talked about, or are you ready to move on? Just let me know.
Well, I just want to, for those people, because our audience is people who are doing this. Some of them are doing this already quite well, and some of them are exploring doing it. And I just want to tell you not to be afraid, and to realize that everybody's journey is different. And some of you are going to be, like I said, like Rachel, able to open up and channel what's needed at the moment and who's needed at the moment. And some of you are going to forge very close relationships with a single entity. That happens with a lot of people, or a little of both. And it's very much worth exploring. And the whole point is that we have ascended, at least the vibration of this earth has gone up enough that we are closer to them, and it is much easier for us to access that when we train a little bit and practice a little bit. And they're happy to do it. The beings on the other side want us to know more. They want us to remember more. They want us to have tools to help us navigate through the density of what's going on in the world now. And so yeah, go ahead and explore this, and do as much as you can, because just to have it's like having a friend um who's smarter than you, like having someone with a lot of experience, and or they're really well trained, and you can always go to them for advice. It's very helpful. That's all.
So, one more thing I want to mention before we move on to Merlin. You actually do tarot reading sessions for people, but don't you also do trans-channeled messages with Merlin? Are they trans-channeled messages where you let Merlin come in and trans messages for
Absolutely. And
your
any
clients?
session that anybody would book with me might include, depending on what they want or need, it would include a tarot, some tarot. It could include channeling of somebody you really need to hear from, but definitely my priority would be to give personal messages from Merlin, and that would be
Okay.
trans-channeled for the person. Yeah, you can have a session that's all that just nothing else. Or some people are not, there are still people out there who are not comfortable hearing channeling.
Yeah.
So, then I will offer them the tarot without the channeling, but it can be custom designed.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
Okay, I'm
So
gonna.
let's move on to Merlin. I have some questions already for him. And just let me know when he's here, or tell
Okay, I'm
him to
gonna
let me
bring
know
him in.
when he's here.
He's definitely here, but I
Yeah.
have to just switch gears a little. Tune the radio station to the other frequency, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm here and very happy to be here. I was very much looking forward to this session, as all of you were, and disappointed myself when all of the technical things went awry. We can help with some of those things occasionally, but we are not able to completely interfere with what is presented or not presented in your devices. And so I am so thrilled that we are going forward as promised with
Mhm.
this session, because I was eager to share with the people who are coming or listening in the later times. So thank you, Miss Olivia, for being the host of this, and you may go right ahead and ask some questions, and I will do my best to give you answers that are comprehensible and simple.
Okay. All right, Merlin. Well, thank you so much. I feel so honored to be able to be here with you and to channel with you, because I feel a connection with you for sure. And so I actually I have some questions about the podcast that you did with Rachel a couple weeks ago. And my first question is maybe a bit heavy, but I'm wondering. You had talked about the 999 healing system that they had in Atlantis, and I
Yes.
remember doing that meditation. It was amazing and beautiful and wonderful, and I loved it so much. But I was curious. You had said that it seemed only certain people could use the healing system, and so I wanted to know more, like, why was there this hierarchy? Why couldn't just anybody use the system? Or did I misunderstand?
No, you understood. It is something. Atlantis was not truly in its best of times, in many hundreds of years, when it was in its golden years. Many of the wonderful things that you aspire to were normal, and there was not a hierarchical system. Everyone was valued and had their place in the world, and it was also understood that certain professions required the use of a lot of personal energy. And therefore, if you had priests and priestesses, or if you had certain people who were doing healing, for example, who were expending a great deal of energy or having energy move through them constantly, it may deplete the physical structure somewhat more quickly than it would for, say, a farmer or a salesperson or a musician. And so the 999 was definitely that required a lot of having a session of the 999 was a big deal. It was time consuming. There were many attendants. There were otherworldly beings. There were unicorns involved and galactics or angels involved. There was a large use of the main crystals of the Atlantean temples, and so it was not a thing that you could just have going morning, noon, and night a lot of the time, and had to be rationed just because of the nature of what it was. But there was a certain priority put on those who expended energy for the good of others to have more access to it. But it was important that every single person in the community would have access to it at least once or twice in their lifetime. And that's all they would need. You would not want to overload on this because the energy boost you would get was quite large. And the youthening properties were lasting. And so everyone had the option to have this at a particular time of like a bar mitzvah age, that someone would have this. This was their quinceañera or their bar mitzvah moment where they would be able to enjoy this. And perhaps if they lived to a very old age and needed it for healing purposes, they would also be able to get this option. And people would also be awarded this as a prize, so to speak, or a benefit for having done something that benefited the whole community, or having perhaps, for example, an athlete who won a big race. That sounds more trivial, but this could be a prize that they would treasure. And if they won this prize, they could also give it to someone else. For example, say an elderly relative, or someone who needed it in their circle. And so it was just a valued procedure, which had to be limited somewhat because of all the effort it took to have it happen. We did it in this meditation that you speak of. We did it in the etheric realm. So your physical body was only participating by sort of spillover. When you did it in Atlantis, it was your entire physical body, along with all your etheric, astral, emotional, and mental bodies as well. And so it's so much more powerful. And so you can imagine, if you got a lot from this meditation just in your light body, how it would have affected you had you been able to do this physically as well.
Okay. I see. So everyone got to use it at least once and possibly twice in their life. So it wasn't like just the higher ups, I want to say, like the people that were maybe revered more or something like that.
Right. And they only had special access because of the work that they were doing with energy, which made it perhaps a little more appropriate that their energy should be replenished.
Okay. All right. So you had mentioned that there were certain people who became advanced enough to be able to teleport, and that they were the highest trained, maybe the highest vibrational. But I was curious, why didn't everyone get to learn this? Was it just like a choice, or was it again like a hierarchical thing where only certain chosen people were allowed to learn that?
Anyone could aspire to learn anything in Atlantis. If anybody had an interest in it and worked hard at it and had an inclination to it, it was always allowed to to practice and pursue something. Just like human beings, however, are human beings, and they, even in the higher vibration, they have inclinations and skills and talents. Not everyone is the same, and so you will note in your world today, you will note that there are those who seem saintly, more saintly than others, and those athletes who are just do incredible feats of, say, running, or players in games that are superior to all other athletes. And there are musicians and creators of art, creators of music, who we revere because they were super talented in certain things. And so therefore, even metaphysical talents, there are those who come into being who have a purpose that requires these skills to be supercharged, and they may be particularly talented in learning to do these skills. And so it was not that others were barred from this, or that there was a hierarchy based on levels of, like, you would be born into the priesthood and at a certain level, and therefore you would be eligible. It was not like a caste system. It was more a talent and merit based thing, that there were those who practiced and worked and sacrificed and meditated and became able to do some of these things, where others would either not find themselves skilled or interested, or they would find themselves not willing to make the sacrifices it required.
I see. That that makes me feel a little better. Clearly some of my ego was in that. I just was like,
I
you
would like
hear
to
about it.
I would like to comfort you. Pardon me for interrupting, but I would like to comfort you in your assumptions, because you may have a memory indeed of later times in Atlantis when some of the things I speak of did become perverted for personal use. And so it is possible that you are recalling another time when the things that were free for all to pursue did in fact become less available to the masses, and there were those who felt protective of their own special rights and privileges, and this was the beginning of the downfall. And so you may
Oh,
not be so far off in worrying about these things, but they were not true of the majority of Atlantis's years.
okay. So I think you had said that Atlantis existed for like 1500 years.
Yes,
Was that just the golden age, or was that for the whole existence of Atlantis?
that was the entire time, more or
Mm.
less. Um,
So oh,
yes.
so was Atlantis, did they start off kind of in the golden age and then they something happened and then things shifted, or was it kind of like they went through their own like ascension, got to the golden age and then somehow, fell down again, or I don't
I
know.
was not there at the exact beginnings, but my understanding is that the Lemurians, who had existed before Atlantis and had an idyllic existence, had been seeded from other galaxies, and they were the ones who seeded Atlantis. They wished to create um, a civilization that was slightly different from their own, perhaps a slightly lower vibration, to experience more sensory detail, but to incorporate many of their ideals and energetic understandings in the humanity of Atlantis. And so it was the Lemurians who basically created Atlantis as part of the great experiment of stepping energies down as far as they can without compromising mm, the 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 quality of love, basically the quality of community that existed in golden societies. And so in the very beginning, Atlantis there was an infant stage, basically, of the community where they were being shepherded by the Lemurians and looked to the Lemurians for guidance and grew in their own directions, and learned to make their own community and learned to increase their technologies, which was not a Lemurian thing very much at all, um, and grew to create a society that was beautiful and harmonious, and was also still able to access interaction with various beings that were from other places and other dimensions. And as we spoke about, there were times when unicorns, dragons, mermaids, some galactic visitors were commonalities in Atlantis. And as Atlantis grew over 1500 years, you can imagine, if you cast your imagination back to the time of your Christ, your Jesus the Christ, that is 2000 and some odd years. Many things have happened over the course of that time. And we will say that humanity has evolved in many directions, for better or worse. This was the case with Atlantis. They built a great civilization. They built great technology. They built a great society. And then, of course, there was a moment when things began to pivot. Some of the people began to wish to protect their own interests more, or acquire more power than was really fair for them to handle. or even wise for them to handle. And this trickled down as a rot. It comes in every society so far, hopefully not every society, but it is unfortunately the pattern that there is a place where beings with egos begin to explore. It is like the tale of your Adam and Eve. Biting the apple is only a metaphor for wanting something that is ego driven as opposed to oneness and love driven. And when some people do this, others feel the need that they must do it to protect themselves, and it spreads like a cancer. It spreads like an apple rots, or anything that falls apart. And there was a subtlety at the beginning which did not seem so threatening, and it could be contained, and then of course it never is contained, and things became out of control. By the time we realized that we were not going to be able to return to our perfection, things had gone too far to salvage.
Hmm. That feels very sad to me.
Very sad.
Um, so, um, did Lemuria fall and then Atlantis started, or was it like Lemuria merged into what Atlantis became?
Lemuria did not exactly fall. Lemuria was a beautiful society and created Atlantis and shepherded Atlantis and was in commerce with Atlantis. And the Lemurians continued to ascend on their own. And much of their society ascended into another dimension that really did not have interest in Earth anymore. And then there was a cadre of Lemurians who um, were in love with Earth and have stayed. And they are in high vibrational spaces, but they are peppered about the Earth. Mount Shasta is a great center. And there are some that live beneath the Earth's crust in the center of the Earth, in the hollow Earth, which indeed exists in a certain dimension. Your instruments might not be able to penetrate and find it at this time, but there is a great Lemurian society within the center of the Earth, and there are there are beings from Lemuria who come forth to observe and to assist and to guide your populations, your light workers, and they will make themselves known to us, to you, very soon. They are a different kind of galactic, I suppose you could say, or a multidimensional being who has lived upon Earth, and is some of them are gone, they're ascended, and some of them are only ascended far enough to still remain on Earth as guides and shepherds who love this place and its denizens.
Okay. All right. So, and in Atlantis, okay, I'm sure you understand that we have this concept here of star seeds where we have existed in other planets or dimensions or realities before incarnating here in the 3D Earth. Was that true for Atlantis or like the Atlantean people, or was this like their first incarnation, like here on Earth?
Oh, very good question. Rarely. The soul is an interesting, the soul, many souls were created so far into the past. If you, well, there isn't, hmm.
I know what you
In
mean.
certain dimensions, time has no meaning, of course, but we say there were original souls that came forth from Source, and they begot other souls, and Source continued to make more souls, and there are lots of souls all over the universe and all over many universes, and they are interested in having as much variety of adventure, many of them, and they're each as different as a snowflake or a fingerprint from each from the other. And so their journeys are as different as night and day. Some of them have only been on Earth. Some of them are more recently created and have only been on Earth in many, many lifetimes. And some of them have been through many incarnations in different galaxies and planetary systems. And Earth is acknowledged widely to be a popular decision, a popular spot to decide to come to because of the density of sensory pleasure and emotional stimulation that it offers. Now that comes with risks,
Yeah.
but it is definitely attractive to a soul because
Yeah.
you can learn and expand and have a great deal of experience all compressed into one lifetime. And it is a brief commitment by many standards. So many are on the waiting list, believe it or not, maybe not so much right this moment, because at this moment there is a great deal of turbulence, but there's always been a large waiting list of souls who wish to have the incarnation experience on this planet. And they are still, some of them are still waiting in line for a second try, perhaps. Um, Yes, this is true. Now, so your question was, have most of the Atlanteans, was it their first incarnation? Not, no. Most of
Okay.
them did come from experiences in other
I see.
galaxies.
So did they forget their soul memories too, like we did here in the 3D?
Yes, is part of the agreement for all incarnation to, well, this is by degree, however. It is by degree. They would have come with a certain amount of ignorance of their origin, but they would have also come with, in different dimensions, there is a more of a memory of soul connection to source. And the more soul connection you have to source, the more the more the more you feel connected to your fellows, the more love there is, the more community there is, the more peace there is, the less ego. So there's a whole range of step down frequencies which a soul can choose to have. And some of the people on your planet are in the very bottom of the barrel there, with a very low frequency and a very little memory of anything but their immediate experience. But
Okay.
there are many on the earth who are far above that, and many clicks above that, where they feel a sense of belonging to something bigger, and they feel a sense of oneness with their fellow man, but they don't necessarily understand where they came from or what their purpose is or where they're going next. And we are waking many of you up in order for you to know a much fuller story, so that you can help move your population into a dimension where almost everyone has the knowledge that they are soul creatures, at least. And you might still not remember, it is not productive for a soul which is incarnated on any planet, in any place, in any society. It is really not productive for them to have the memory of all of their experiences. It
Okay.
feels like your head would explode. Yes, I mean,
Uh-huh.
you would. Some of you have had thousands of experiences, and you would not
Right.
wish to come with all your memories intact. But just the knowledge of feeling like you are a creature of love and light that comes all from the same place, that is enough to elevate you to a higher place.
Okay. So when Atlantis started, were they third dimensional or were they how did they start? Which dimension?
It's very difficult for me to put numbers and quantifications on things the
Okay.
way you do, but I will say they were not as dense as you.
Okay. So
They
does
were.
that mean they had oh, go ahead. Sorry.
They, um, I would say the highest side of third dimensional or fourth dimensional, and in some I'd like to say that there were some fifth dimensional qualities which you are hoping to achieve now with your own ascension. There were fifth dimensional qualities, but like your world that is to come, there is a wide range of fifth dimensional existence, and you do not wish to lose entirely the the sense of being fleshly in a fleshly body, and you do not wish to have a society in completely in your light body, because that would dull the experience of having the sensory input and the emotional uh, depth of the incarnating experience. And so there are many flavors of each of these dimensions. It's not a one size fits all. Both Atlantis were physical people, but they were highly evolved, and they had a society that was highly evolved, and they were able to do many things and connect with many things that you could not do from your place where you are now. But you will be able to. We call it fifth dimensional, but it is not out of body, if you understand what I mean. There are
Okay.
many societies now that are shimmering lights, that are not fleshly incarnate at all, but and they are perfectly happy being such, but they are not enjoying the same level of experiential input that you are. So the trick is to find the recipe, which existed in Atlantis for quite a while, where you can have it all. You can have connection, you can have soul, you can have light running through you and energies to work with. Uh, and you can have the knowledge of your oneness with all, but you can still enjoy the physical pleasures of being in a body and interacting with others and having emotional relationships. So this is the great experiment of all time, and it is yet to be perfected, actually, in many places. Many places have mastered it to a degree. Um, but each star system, each galaxy, each planet that has been through some of these evolutions is its own snowflake. It will be a guide to you, but not the same imprint, the same exact blueprint.
Okay. All right. So I have a couple more questions. Actually, I could probably do this all day, but I've got a couple more questions. But if anybody in the audience has questions for Merlin regarding anything that we're talking here, not personal questions, but anything that we've been talking about today, please put them in the comments. So I have a question. Actually, April back in January of 2024 had trans-channeled Pallas, the owl, and Athena's owl, and they were talking about, or Pallas was talking about daemons, and I was wondering, can you have more than one daemon?
I wish to clarify some of that. There was some interference in that conversation from the channel a little bit about her understanding of these matters. Pallas is not my daemon. Pallas is a being who is separate and um, had her own uh, trajectory and is a very close associate who chooses to be with me. However, she also has enjoyed speaking about demons because they are a real thing, and they are actually more widespread than anybody would believe, that someone would um, again encapsulate some of their own energy in a form that could stand outside and interact with one, and usually in an animal form, because animals have a certain meanings associated with them and certain qualities, and they can be useful to, well, to keep one on the straight and narrow, to have a second opinion about things, to be a sounding board, and a guide and a steering mechanism as well. And they do develop personalities, and they do, but they stay, their personalities are a version of the person who it has, or the being who has created them, or allowed them. And there are societies, such as has been channeled in your literature, in which um, the demons are very visible and very audible and very much manifested there in a physical form. And that is considered normal in some of them. And in your society, not so much, but people do speak about having a totem animal or animal spirit guide. Native cultures, more than any, may have felt particularly, individuals may have felt particularly linked with a certain animal, and that was them creating a daemon for themselves. Can one have more than one? I would say no. I have never heard of an instance of that, because it takes a great deal of skill and energy to separate off a portion of oneself with one's own soul energy. And it is more, I think it is more productive to have a best friend, so to speak, or a guide, or, someone there on your shoulder all the time to guide you, without too many different opinions and too many different if you split yourself off in too many different forms, you can become confused or inactive, incapable of movement. I do not believe that there are usually more than one daemon. However, that does not mean you do not have guides, which is a whole different thing. You are assigned guides like Pallas, who are with you to come and support you at different points of your evolution, and to guide you and to protect you and to be wise teachers for you. It's
Okay.
yeah.
I guess I had gotten the impression that a daemon was a like an animal spirit guide, but it sounds like it's a piece of your own soul that maybe manifests the energy of maybe an animal, the energy that you need to embody or help you through a certain period in your life.
That is correct. Now, usually a daemon will take a form that will last for one incarnation, a lifetime.
Oh, so it
Um,
won't shape shift like if things change in your life
it
and all
can,
of a
it
oh,
can, it
okay.
can, but it depends. But there are sometimes a certain point where the daemon itself chooses a certain form that is most congenial to its own comfort too. It becomes a separate entity in a sense, in that it has its own thoughts and feelings. It is not just a projection, but when it is connected to you indelibly, soulfully, but it does have its own separate existence. It's very difficult to explain, and different from having a spirit guide.
Okay. Um, okay. So if you were to have a daemon in this reality right now, was that something that you decided before you came in, or is that something you do like how do you create that daemon?
Not all of you decide to have a daemon. As I said, it was more common in indigenous cultures because that was an accepted. Uh, they may have called it something different, but they were able to do this. Um, and I believe that most who do have a daemon here now have not decided before they come in, except for the fact that they may have been in other cultures, in other galaxies, in other incarnations, where it was accepted and normal. And so they may come in as a soul with a vague recollection that this was a thing that they should be having, that they miss, that they want. And so they reach for it, and they cannot create the physical version in this reality, and so they can create for example, some people, and people do call them spirit guides, even though it's not the same thing, but they will, you are ignorant. I don't mean that in a critical way.
I
I
know what
just
you
mean
mean.
you do not have the experience with this that other galaxies have. And so you may, for example, say, my alter ego is a Black Panther. I always have my Black Panther with me. I always dress with, the symbol around me. I always wear it around my neck. I always think about myself being a Black Panther. And what you are doing is you are basically funneling some of your energy into this vision of the qualities of this particular beast, and in some way in your head it speaks to you, or it becomes you at times, or it argues with you at times, um, and sometimes you will say to yourself, what would the panther do here? And so it is like having an invisible friend.
Okay. All right. So we have a question from the audience. Um, Brenda wants to know, can Merlin share anything about spiritual alchemy and how we can use it to transform or help ourselves?
Everything is energy and vibration. Everything in the universe is energy and vibration, and that actually is terms that your scientists use that have only scratched the surface of what energy and vibration are. um, there is so much more flavor and variety and vibration and wavelengths and frequencies and all of the dimensional things that you haven't discovered yet, that you are still discovering all the time. And so, those of you who are inclined towards alchemy and spiritual alchemy and wizardry, so to speak, you are close to my heart, and many of you have been my students in other lifetimes. Your job, I mean, there were times when we used these skills to literally change matter into other things, or change it into a different form, or collect energy from the universe to create matter. You do not need to do these particular party tricks now. What you need to do is change the vibration around yourself and in yourself. And it is very true that your thoughts are your most powerful tool here. Your thoughts, your intentions, the words that you use. We talk about magic words and magic spells. Well, it's not about necessarily reading a spell out of a book that's perfectly worded, but it is about watching your language to make sure that you do not sully your intention with negative energy vibrations. And so you must frame the things that you wish to change in positive ways, in living, and I'm looking for a word that I have lost. I had it and have lost it. Positive is what I mean, but I also mean in vibrant or vivacious ways. You do not wish to frame anything you wish to have happen in a way of, please do not let this happen, or please let me have less of such and such, less pain, or less. The poison comes from the knots and the less, and you wish to create something, you do not wish to uncreate it. So you are
Okay.
creating with your thoughts new possibilities. You are drawing from the universe the timeline that exists, that holds for you the best possibilities. And so intention, imagination, vision, positivity, certainty, gratitude. You've heard all of this before. They are all part of the recipe for alchemy on this planet. And I will tell you, those who are practicing it is not an easy thing. It takes practice and discipline. Even the best among you find yourselves speaking and thinking in despair, in lack, in desperation. And that is because your world demands so much of you. But let that happen and shove it aside. Then take your 5 minutes of pity or 5 minutes of fear, and then just, that, all right, we will not sit there. We will let that pass through us. And now we will say, I envision a world where this is not a problem. I envision a situation where there is an easy solution that comes from above. I envision myself knowing exactly what to do here. There are so many angels and guides and helpers that are working with me to find the best easy solution for this. I feel the energy coming through this channel right away because of these words and these feelings and you need to express the positive words with the passion and certainty and gratitude for what is and what has yet to come. And you must always understand that you cannot control another person with free will. You also cannot change a soul's pattern. For example, if you wish to provide healing for someone you love dearly or yourself, and you wish to alchemize that healing and say, take away this burden, or create perfect health and you may not be able to achieve what you intend, what you think you intend, because it may be in that person's soul contract to experience this particular limitation or to pass away, to move and make the transition. You may not be able to change that, but you can heal everything around it so that it goes gracefully and effortlessly without complication. And you will not know the difference. You will ahead of time. You may not, you will send healing. You will imagine healing and wholeness and perfection. And you will not know whether that healing will manifest as wellness on this planet or as transition to the next phase. But you must accept that those are both the result of your request, your alchemy.
Okay. I think as humans, when we hear about manifestation and how it's about, trying to speak positivity and speak as if it's already happened, that one, sometimes maybe that feels too easy, and so then maybe we don't do it, or it feels like when we do it and we don't see results instantly, well, then we think it's not working. And sometimes it's hard to speak those things when that isn't your current reality, and so it can be a little discouraging, I think, sometimes. So that's what makes it hard,
You are
is
correct.
trying to get over that hurdle.
You are correct. These are great challenges in your world. And for one reason also is that the law of attraction is a very simple law, and it is incontrovertible. The law of attraction is like attracts like. It is as simple as that. 3 words, like attracts like. But what is the problem there? The problem is you cannot attract a beautiful high vibrational circumstance if you are sitting in a low vibrational pity party. You cannot. You are vibrating at a different speed. And so you'll only attract the same things that you are already there. So the trick is to raise your vibration, as difficult as that is when you are facing challenges or pain or financial ruin or natural disaster or war. It is very difficult to raise your vibration to the place where you can attract a better circumstance that matches your vibration. That is the discipline. That is the practice. That is the work that one has to do. And yes, there are times when no one can imagine being in the middle of a war, for example, where your home has been destroyed and some of your family have been killed and you are wounded and there is no food. These things are happening in your world, and for a person to blithely go along in that circumstance and say, I would like to transfer all, I would like to transmute all of this to beautiful, perfect. Well, it is group. There are group things. There are what do we call them? Collective intentions that sometimes the individual is not able to transcend, but you can transcend your own circumstance into the best possible circumstance within that. And that takes a great deal of focus. We are all being asked, you are all being asked by us to do this now, because you will be seeing around you, and some of you experiencing difficult, turbulent things. And if you latch onto them and feel rage or despair or disgust, all these lower vibrational feelings that you are reacting to all of the chaos around you, you will not be able to attract for your own path the kinds of higher experience that you wish. And so you need to be aware of what's going on around you, but focus on the good. And it is a practice. It is a practice to say, oh my, this is horrible. And yet I see those that are helping. And yet I see the sun has risen and the flowers are blooming. And yet I hear beautiful music. And yet I am sure that God loves me and that I will be cared for no matter what. And yet I have my family about me and I love them deeply and they love me. And yet I am petting my dog and my dog is very dear to me. And so I treasure this relationship. And so when you put your focus on these beautiful things in your life that make it sweet and that make this moment, this very moment at this time, peaceful and good for you and happy and joyful, you are raising your vibration tremendously. And in these moments, you are also able to say, and so the rest of my day, I live in easy world and everything conspires in my favor. And all the things that I have to face today will go as well as possible. I will have the highest timeline. And I am thankful for all of that. And and you practice this enough, this works. It is not advisable. I mean, there are also things that you have no control over, such as, well, it's not that you have no control over, but for example, your soul may not have contracted to be a millionaire in this lifetime. It may not be the experience you have decided was most educational for you. But that does not mean that you should live constantly in want. And so there is a middle ground there that you can say, not that you want money, but that you wish to be free to pursue the highest avenue of service, the most joyful life. You wish to have the resources always to be provided for and to be able to put your focus on things that are of more consequence than survival. And you trust that somehow it will be. It will always be. And we
Okay.
do. Does that help?
Oh,
Hopefully.
go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
No, I am ready for another inquiry.
Well, I was just going to say, you know, but does that mean we have to be happy and positive all the time in order to attract a positive life and experience? I mean,
Ah,
because we have bad days, so am I not allowed to have a bad day? And how do I honor those, you know, crummy feelings that I'm having?
yes, you must be honest. This is the question of humanity. These are the questions you are asking, the deepest questions that everyone goes through that are very significant and important, because these are the difficulties that come with being in a 3D existence. Um, you must be honest. You must allow your feelings to come through you and acknowledge them, for sure. When you're having things pile up on you and are having a bad day, you will have these feelings, and you must acknowledge them and say, yes, I'm feeling jealous, I am feeling tired, I am feeling resentful, I am feeling angry, whatever it is. The trick comes, you cannot walk around pretending to be happy all the time. It is not normal, and it is not honest, and it is not going to get you anywhere. But what you can do is learn to be as a child. This channel always wishes to tell the story about when she was traveling in a troupe which did a Madame Butterfly opera all over the country, your nation. And there was a 5-year-old boy who used to travel with the group because there was a part in the play for a small child at the end of the play. And so this one boy had to do with his mother, was in the bus and traveling everywhere. And the only child in the ensemble, and busily doing performances every night and having to take on a great burden that most children don't take on. And she will say that watching this child was educational because he would be roused from sleep and put on a bus early in the morning, and he would be grumpy and he would be whining, and then he would have breakfast, and then he would be curious and he would be engaging with some of the other people on the bus, and he would be showing his toys and happy, and then he would look out the window and say, oh, a buffalo, very excited, and then he would fall down and hit himself on the head and cry for a while, and then he would be hungry, and each thing came and was intensely acted upon, and then left to make space for the next emotion. What adults do that is wrong is they have an incident which makes them feel bad in some way, and then other things happen which are better for him. Perhaps their attention is different or they've enjoyed something, and then after that's over, they will think to themselves, now, what am I missing? Ah, yes, I'm supposed to be feeling bad about that thing that happened this morning. And then they will bring it right back into their consciousness, and they will live there for many hours or many days. And so the natural flow of emotions is like what a child automatically does. It happens, you respond, you acknowledge, you let it go. The next thing is in the moment. The next thing is in the moment. What is the proper response to this next thing? And then forget about it. It's gone. It's happened. It's in the past. It is no longer can affect you. And that is the trick. So then you do not walk around with false happiness, but you allow everything to flow constantly. And most of the time, you are engaged with things that are more positive in each moment. And you do not constantly pull back the old rages, the old grudges, the old disappointments back to chew on in your consciousness for such a long time, which then it turns into acid and turns into sediment in yourself and makes it harder for you to raise your vibration on a regular basis. Yes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's such a great analogy. Like, I mean, that just like clicked because I think of my own son and how, yeah, he has these experiences that are bad and he might sit and wallow, but maybe only for, you know, 10 minutes or something. And then all of a sudden, you know, now he's laughing and giggling and like having the best time ever. And I'm like, and I'm always kind of like, what's going on? Like, why are you doing that? And how is it like 5 minutes ago, you were so upset and angry, and now you're just like nothing ever happened and you're just happy go lucky again. But yeah, so that was a great analogy.
The
I appreciate that.
children can teach you so much. They naturally have the ability to be more in the moment. And
Mm,
in the moment, they respond to what they feel, and then they move on. And no one is asking you not to feel, and no one. This is the purpose for you to be here, is to feel all these emotions and to understand them better, uh, but not to wallow in them and not to sit in them for days and years and
right.
be a person who is a victim or a person who is always. Now there are grieves and losses and things that will
Right.
settle upon you that require more time, but just to allow things to uh, move more naturally, no one is asking you never to, never to have a bad day. But if you can make yourself laugh at some point, that breaks the spell.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Yeah. I think that's very helpful, and the audience agrees too that everything that you said thus far is very helpful. Um, do you feel like you have the energy or space to answer one more of my questions, or are you are you
Always,
are you spent?
always, always.
Okay.
We are joyful here to be engaged in such a manner with this group of seekers and light bearers.
Okay. So, all right. So I have one more question, and then we have a question from the audience. I'm going to go with that one first. So, um, if we were not, if we did not have a contract to become a millionaire, does that contract put limitations on what we are able to manifest, or what is possible for us to manifest in this life?
Well, the clue is you do not know what your contract states. You do not see, or you do not know what your contract is. And is there limits? Well, there may be, for example, suppose you are here on this earth and you have a soul, your soul contract was to learn how to enjoy a happy life with um, meager means, or just limited means, to learn to find new priorities, to find the what you need for happiness in family, in relationships, in being grateful for what you do have, and not needing the extra bolster of great wealth. And suppose that was your intention, which you put. The contract was not given to you. You were not limited by somebody above you. You made this. You may have had a life of great wealth, and perhaps it was not a happy life. Perhaps you need to come back and learn that happiness is something deeper than that, or something that you get from something else other than possessions, or money, or prestige. And so you may, for example, come with that and not necessarily know it, but the limitation that you've put on yourself forces you to find these other deeper qualities and to grow. And if you grow enough that you are centered in your knowledge of what is for good, then there is not a need for that limit. So that if you master the question that you have put to yourself for this incarnation, you do not have a limit then. And perhaps you would suddenly make a lot of money, and you would be the kind of person who would be a great steward of that money, because you would already have learned the lesson that you put to your soul, that it is not an important thing in and of itself. And so you would be necessarily a person who would distribute or use it for charitable work, or doing good for many. And so that is the thing. The limitations are not put by someone else. They are put by you. And for you to have a new experience and learn a new lesson. And if you master that lesson, then the limits are removed.
Okay, I see. That makes sense. Okay, so this month in Tag, we are revisiting the wolves, and we are revisiting sound healing and the Sri Yantra. And I wanted to know, what is the importance of sound healing? Like I want to know, like, the importance of sound healing, how we can use it, like how we can use it, and in like, does it have a universal impact?
Well, I will do a shameless advertisement here, so to speak, because we will be coming on in the TAG group, for those who are in TAG, tomorrow afternoon at the usual time, to speak about sound, the music of the universe, and the importance of sound. And we will be asking our wonderful colleague, Archangel Serafina, who is the consort of Archangel Metatron, to come and channel some and speak about the importance of the angels and their creation of things with sound energy.
Okay.
Sound is just nothing more than another word for vibration. And when it is stepped down to a lower vibration, it is audible in your ear. It's a
Okay.
different kind of vibration, a wavelength, a frequency that is able to be heard. And there are pleasing arrays of sound, which we call music, or we call pleasant sound, or speech, or all of that is related. And it is just another form of source energy. Now, it is a dense form of source energy, and it is the creative force that the angels and source use to pull the substance of the universe together to create form, which is what Serafina will speak of. And
Okay.
when you use it, when you can control energetics, the energetics of sound, which when you do, some of you can do sound healing, where the audible part of the sound healing is only a very small portion of what is coming through you. There are other vibrations and colors and frequencies that are in, you do not have the instruments to measure in your world yet. And
Okay.
so when you ask to have the healing channeled through you, and it piggybacks upon musical sound or vocal sound, you are sending out a pleasant vocal sound, which has its own healing properties. But there are other sounds embedded in that, not sounds, but other healings, energies embedded in that, which are not detectable by instruments. You are being channeled. Something is channeling through you for healing. You are only just beginning to explore the science of this in your world, where people are now using sound, vibrations, and frequencies to do healing, which can create or destroy. It can also build the bridges, and it can also break up blockages or destroy things that are toxic. So it is a matter of intention. Are we using stereotactic surgery, for example, to send a beam of sound to break up a kidney stone or a blockage? Are we trying to use sound waves to um, cleanse or clear something that has been sullied, or deposits that shouldn't be there? Are we trying to use it to realign frequencies in a person which are have become disparate or antithetical to one another? Are we trying to harmonize their bodies with their emotional bodies and their mental bodies so that it all works in tandem the way it was intended to be? There are so many uses for this sorts of energy. So let's see, your question. It is beginning to be tapped into a little bit on the most densest level by science. But you who are using it, those of you who are using it, are not even clear. You cannot describe the kinds of frequencies that are being
Mhm.
piggybacked into your voices when you do sound healing. So everything depends upon the clear intention. If it works better if you know what you're trying to do. Are we trying to disrupt? Are we trying to break through? Are we trying to reharmonize and align? Are we trying to build a bridge? Are we trying to reconnect things that should be connected that are broken? Are we trying to materialize a whole new structure? Um, Visualize these things in your mind, and then allow the appropriate sound and other frequencies to come through you to um, what they're doing is using frequency waves to manipulate matter and uh, the substance of the universe.
Okay. That's nice to hear because I I love doing sound healing with my voice, and sometimes I just start and it's like I can't stop, but I just love it. And but I always am wondering, like, is this really as effective as I'm hoping it is?
This channel, it finds it difficult more difficult to do this because she has been vocally trained to be beautiful, to have a beautiful voice. And there is much healing that comes through her voice. But she has to learn to let go of consciously manipulating the sound to be what she was trained to think of as correct
Mhm.
or beautiful.
Mhm.
So it is a matter
Exactly.
of letting go of the mind when and allowing the higher self and the guides above and the angelic kingdom to work through you, and just allow the frequencies that the angels can manipulate to piggyback upon whatever you are putting out. And it doesn't even have to sound beautiful, although most of the time it does.
Mm, interesting. We have 11 viewers and 11 likes, so 11, 11.
These are
um,
magical numbers indeed, very powerful, very powerful.
okay, well, that was my last question, and we don't have any more audience questions. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up?
It is so wonderful that we were able to do this despite the challenges, and that it speaks for our persistence, and also having community to work together to address issues that come up in anything. Uh, I am always at your disposal to answer your questions as best I can, and to guide you on your way, because it is my joy and my purpose to support you in your desire to make a more beautiful world of earth. My heart is with you, and I bless you all, and I am at your disposal when you need guidance or to see confusion. Well, if sometimes I suppose I engender more confusion than I engender clarity, but I am always here to at least try to do my best.
Well, thank you so much. We're not, now we're at 12:12 for viewers and likes. Um, but thank you so much for being here, Merlin. I love listening to you and your teachings and your wisdom, and what a gift it is. And yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And the audience really appreciates it. They just loved listening to everything that you brought forward for us today. So thank you so much.
Well, it is always my joy, and I send you all blessings and my sincere appreciation and respect. I will go
Okay.
now. Okay. Well, that
I
seems
could
like it
keep
was a lot of
going.
fun.
Yeah, I it's hard for me to wrap up. I could just keep going and going and going,
And some
asking
part of me feels
questions.
like I could too. I love it. It makes me feel so happy because I've learned so I'm listening to, and I learned so much.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I definitely wanna go back and, listen to this again. So, because
Olivia,
as he's
thank you.
talking.
And
Oh,
thank
yeah,
you
well,
for
thank
all the
you.
great questions and for facilitating and for oh my, is that the real time?
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I have to like call my chiropractor or something. Why I'm not there.
Oh, no, I'm
That's
sorry.
perfectly fine. I would rather be here. Um,
Uh,
and we'll have to do this some more. It's a
yeah, I
really good
would love
thing.
to. Well, thank you so much, April. I really appreciate spending this time with you. And every time I hear you channel Merlin, I'm like, I have to have a session with you where you're trans channeling Merlin for me for some personal guidance. I really want to do that. So
That would be great. That's no
yeah.
problem. Obviously, you've
Okay.
done, we can, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's different when it's from somebody else. Yeah. So,
Thank you
all
so
right,
much again. And
April.
thank you to everybody for coming and listening, even with all the stuff going on at the beginning. And hopefully, we'll do this some more.
All right. All right. Well, thank you. And thank you, everyone. All right. Bye.
Bye.